India receives close to about $100 billion inward. Yeah. And India sends roughly about $20-25 billion. What are the 2 or 3 most difficult things being a founder?
As an entrepreneur, you know controllable, uncontrollable, but then your mind will say, you are a founder, you can control. Then there are other than many smarter people or probably more privileged people.
If you're genuinely vested in the success of your team, the well-being of your team, yeah, I think that stands out as a leader.
For the first 5 years, 6 years, we were questioning that why you need an app, because everyone launching an app, it's cool.
Is this creating a great experience for the end user?
At time, you need to come on the ground and show that this is how it happens.
You have to deliver that great product. We put the student and the parent the heart of the payment experience.
Hey, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Shabak hai, Shashriyakal, Akal, hola. And thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for even questioning us all the time. So continue to do that, because that's why we keep improving. And today we have won another Star Award. He got tons of experience, and he's been doing something which is again very very important, because जब आप decide करते हो आपको जाना कहाँ पे है, कौन से यूनिवर्सिटी में जाना है, आपको रहना कहाँ पे है, then you also need to know how you need to send your fees, how you need to pay your rental accommodation. So today we have one of the senior director at Flywire. Let him introduce himself, but he's more of a friend. I remember when I met him first, the moment we met, we just clicked. So Prakash, how are you?
I'm super happy to be here, and thanks for the invite, Saurabh.
Thank you for coming from all the way from UK.
My pleasure. So I'm super happy to be here, to be honest. Our association, our friendship goes back a long way.
I guess it's, I met you
Almost
in 2019.
about
2018.
Yeah, I do just before COVID.
Before the COVID, yeah.
And then, and I remember, there was a lot of positive vibe in our conversation. You had the hustle then, you have the hustle now, which I keep mentioning. I like to meet you as often as possible because I learn. One thing that might not be right in my introduction is I am no stalwart, to be honest.
This is your South Indian humble background coming in.
No, I think it's more reality.
I mean, in North, we are like, अच्छा तारीफ करी है, 2 line और मारते हैं.
No, I'll repeat. I am no stalwart in the payment space. There are a lot of people I feel are real stalwarts, and I engage with such stalwarts to learn new things. I engage with stalwarts and founders like you.
I will take the compliment. Australia, I met some very fine lady who like, why Indian men can't take compliment? I'm like, okay, that's a great takeaway. And now if someone give compliment, like I absorb it.
Yeah, you deserve the compliment. And more importantly, apart from our professional engagements, I really value and cherish our friendship.
Absolutely.
Whenever we meet, and last time we met in London. And
at Indian restaurant.
At an Indian restaurant, and then too, our conversations has generally been around industry. What's the new thing that is happening in the industry? How does the industry progress from here? What are the headwinds and tailwinds in the industry? But our conversations have always intrigued me, and super happy to be in this podcast. This is probably my first podcast, by the way. So
it says ease out for audience. He been very particular about how I'm looking, this and that. This is exactly our 2 friends talking.
Yeah.
And learning from each other. What's happening? What are you up to? What we've been doing?
Just to give you a brief background of what I've done over the last few years. I started my career in Nestlé, which
I didn't know that.
Started with FMCG, where I was part of the local, or rather the regional branding team. Was based out of Bangalore then. I was at a very young age. I was given the charge of developing an alternate trade channel for Nestlé, which was a focus then. And they used to focus on the Nescafe brand and the Polo brand, and they wanted to set up a channel which was not a retail channel, and there would be consumption there. So it would be colleges, it would be office canteens, and they would customize their product for that channel.
How young are you?
I think I was in my 20s, early 20s.
And how young are you now?
I'm 44. 5 now. So
I tell you why I'm asking this. In today's generation, everyone want to be rich, everyone want to be successful. Within a year, we can do. They are outliers. There are people who've been very sharp and probably lucky and probably at the right time in the right place. But generally, what I've seen, no one been successful in less than 10-15 years of consistent efforts.
Right.
Do you agree?
Totally agree. In fact, one of the biggest learnings that I have had in my career is that you really have to put in the hard yards, and especially when you're starting your career, you really don't know how business is conducted. So there's a lot of time that you are going to invest on learning some nuances about the product, the business, how do you generate sales, how do you do marketing. So that sacrifice that you make of your personal time and space, is something that people have to do. Students and young professionals will have to do.
But that's boring, no? In this era of Instagram, in this era of 59-second reels, people know everything. But if you go deep, the depth is lacking, the context lacking. How someone who's, let's say, 17 years or 22 years starting their career, what message you want to give them? Not gyan, but message, because we both come from the same background. People say, oh, you're an overnight success. No, it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? Doing the same thing, getting to admission, not doing fancy things, right? Then there are Adit and many probably smarter people or probably more privileged people or probably whatever, not comparing, but so someone who's watching this, because the audience is probably they are someone who's looking, they are in their teens and they are probably already they are questioning whether they study or they drop out. Then there are people who in their mid-20s, they're like, they're in first, second job, they're like, should we continue at the same place or we keep changing and get 3, 4, 5, 10,000 extra? And then there is industry, cohorts, which is probably have the same journey wherein they've been representing a university or they've been building a education agency or something in this space, So with this audience, what was your journey you are talking? Please continue with the journey. But you and me come from the same thought that, at least I always say I got everything, but without hard work, without putting those hours, I didn't get anything.
I totally second your point of view, and so I was talking about my stint in Nestlé, and I spent 2 years in Nestlé. I spent about 12 years in Thomas Cook. I spent 4 years in EbixCash, and then I'm actually going to spend 4 years now. I'm just coming around to spending 4 years in Flywire, of course.
Ebix for 4 years?
For about 4 years, yeah.
So it's 2, 4, 12.
2, 12, 4 and 4. Yeah, and each of these experiences has taught a lot. And, and I'll particularly talk about the Nestlé part of my
journey,
career. Those were the days where I used to work 7 days a week. Yeah, and I used to crisscross the whole state of Karnataka from north to south. I would visit office canteens, I would visit colleges, and one of the most striking part during that stint was I used to see the senior most guy do that along with me. I once had the global CEO of Nestlé. Nestlé's head office is in Vevi. He was perfectly fine joining me in a ride to Mangalore and visiting, some shops and taking feedback, right? So I think that was something that, was a very fulfilling part of my career. I learned a lot. A lot of discipline was got inculcated during that time. But, since you mentioned around, shorter attention spans, what are the 2 or 3 things that somebody should be doing at the start of the career? How do you build your career, and what are the things that, how important is hard work, all of those things? I personally feel that, I have personally never believed in the concept of moving companies just because you get a raise. Yeah, I have personally not believed in it ever.
It's been almost 25 years you've been working?
Yeah,
more or less.
Yeah, close to 20 odd years.
Changed 20, three times or 3 or 4 times.
So
it's
not
like
changed much.
5-6 years, right?
Yeah. So, and then I personally believe that, one should not jump or change just because you're getting a raise. Yeah. I personally believe that what you do today, in the next few quarters or next couple of years, will define your success in the long term. As in, your current work, your body of work will give you opportunities, and you will, once you have made tangible deliveries in whichever area you are in, whether you are sales, whether you're in marketing, whether you are in digital payments, that body of work is what matters. And you will not, for example, you are in the partnership team. Yeah, you have to deliver 3 or 4 strong business changing partnerships, right? Before you even think of, moving places. As simple as that, right? That partnership should have generated tangible value for the company that you work for. Yeah. And that's what is going to be your body of work. Similar, I know you can, you're in partnerships, whether you're in product, you have to build a great product in your current role. It should deliver
So
tremendous value.
it's what you're saying. It's so deep, and it's so logical. Please continue.
Yeah, you're in product, and you have to deliver that great product, which people should be talking about. That product should have generated millions of revenue. If you have not done that, I would strongly recommend people to first build that in their current roles before you'll start hunting.
But what if they don't get? I mean, they're not getting that opportunity. And see, we are all heroes of our own story, right? Anyways, moving. If you ask why you're changing, they were like, "We are not getting opportunity. I'm not able to get enough money." People feel, and generally we all feel that we are taking a logical decision,
logical step,
right? But then, if you see from one side, you're like, "Arey, someone has joined just a year or two, have that body of work, show some, sustainability, show some, like prove your mettle, and then you'll get more opportunities."
Right.
The other person feel, "Arey, I'm not getting the opportunity. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm getting monotonous, ये सब वो सब." तो दोनों साइड अपनी अपनी जगह ठीक है ना, बट फिर भी हो तो रहा है जो आप कह रहे हो. प्रॉब्ली एज अ फाउंडर, एज सीनियर लीडर, वी कैन नाउ से इट. प्रॉब्ली, I mean, I can, another thing which we have common, I have never changed a company for price. I remember when I was at HDFC Bank, or Kotak Securities, my colleagues were changing every year. बैंकिंग में ही होता था कि 1 साल किया 30% raise, then एक बार किया 30% raise, and there were time when I was like, ठीक तो है यार, तुमने 1 साल काम किया 30% रेज किया, तुमने 1 साल काम किया 25-30% रेज हुआ, दैट मीन्स every 3 years your salaries are doubling. Why the need of sticking and proving a mettle?
Yeah. That's a good point. I would say that opportunities are there everywhere, to be honest. Yeah. At various points in time in your career, in your current role, you are likely to face roadblocks where you will feel you will be sitting at 7 o'clock in the evening in the office or 8 o'clock in the office. Yeah. Everybody is probably gone home. And you have been working on a few things over the last, say, a couple of months. Yeah. Nothing has moved forward. Yeah. And there is likely to be a little bit of frustration. There is likely to be, thoughts coming into your head as to whether I'm doing the right thing. Right? Those things can be boring. Those things can mean a lot of midnight hours. Yeah. But I believe that you will have to pull through those times and get past it.
Totally agree. It feels that because we are the same era, we think the same. So we are like, scratching each other's backs. But totally, and I'll give you some example. So those friends of mine who were changing every year, after 3rd, 4th year, no one was hiring them.
Yeah.
Because they say Kotak to HDFC, HDFC to Citi, Citi to back to Kotak.
Yep.
Their skills have not improved.
Yep.
Again, people say body of work, and people say that someone else is getting more opportunities because that person is there for a while.
Yeah.
They've earned that trust, they earned that stability, and they are delivering.
Yeah.
So definitely that person will get more opportunity than someone who have come new.
Right.
Or if someone have come from new, either they have, like, probably in your case, when you stick with Thomas Cook for 12 years, when you went to Ebix, you have the body of work.
Yeah.
You can replicate or add what all you have learned and achieve at Thomas Cook. You can replicate at Ebix. That's where they also hired you and
Yep.
gave you the substantial raise, right? So totally agree. But if I think from a point of view of a Gen Z or I mean, I don't like employee word, but from a team member point of view, they're also not wrong in a way, or probably they don't have patience enough to understand this aspect of discussion.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, probably the new generation, the younger generation, have a shorter attention span. But at the end of the day, sort of in whichever way you look at it, yeah, you have to deliver value for the company that you work for. Yeah, you want to move to another company. That's a decision that you take. But sooner or later,
You get
one thing,
saturated.
yeah, you have to in your day-to-day work, the day-to-day rigor, it has to move in a certain positive direction in terms of the value creation that you are doing. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And that body of work is what is important. I personally feel that I have miles to go right now, to be honest. I personally believe only I have just sort of done a little bit in my space. I am extremely passionate about digital payments, but I personally feel that there's a lot of things that can be done. Yeah, and that's my motivation. Yeah, and that's the way I look at it. If tomorrow I would want to do something new, which probably makes life easy for somebody making a payment for a particular segment, for example, right? And those are the kind of large drivers that everybody has, right? What's the core value that you believe in, and how do you use that core value to move forward in life, right? So that's the way I look at it. So if somebody is really, the younger generation are having thoughts around or thoughts or distraction around, am I the right place or not? I think they should just channelize their energies into thinking, what's the value that I'm creating for myself and the company?
Very beautifully put. It might sound like a gyan to lots of people, but can't agree more. And in fact, another example I give, it's like you sort a plant and you're watering and nurturing it.
Correct.
The plant saplings start getting bigger.
Yeah.
And you cut.
Yeah.
And then put another sap. Like, आपने एक पौधा लगाया, पानी दिया, उसे आप कर ही रहे थे और पौधे में आ रहे हैं फूल, but
Correct.
You have just cut it and then sowed again.
Yes.
And then people say, oh, we are not growing.
Yeah.
And then we all know the example of bamboo.
Yes.
5, 7, 8 years, it's not growing. But the moment start growing, then there's a compound.
There's no stopping.
And I guess you are the perfect example of that. And coming back to digital payments, I mean, how did you from Nestlé move to Thomas Cook and then eventually digital payments? Share your journey,
Sure. So, so that FMCG stint was super important in my life. And then, I did have an affinity towards marketing and branding at one point in time. I always had affinity towards marketing, branding, and business. Right. So I spent a lot of time in the marketing and branding department in Thomas Cook. I worked in the travel marketing side for a long time, and slowly got into foreign exchange business. Where Thomas Cook was one of the largest players, and the idea of and one of the inflection point was when I was actually sitting at one of the offices of Thomas Cook, and I saw a parent there who had come up, who's actually sitting at the counter, and then his son was actually traveling to US, and I could just see the anxiety on his face around the tuition fee payment going, him arranging for funds, the son going abroad for the first time, and I was just thinking that this is probably it was just intriguing to see a parent going through those emotions, right? And that's the time I had got into foreign exchange, and
And when was this?
This was way back in 2015, 16 odd, I would say. And that's the first time I sort of moved.
So when you were in Thomas Cook, right? So we are doing marketing branding. So for the longest, I believe
longest
for the 7-8 years you were into
I was in
travel
I was
branding.
predominantly in the marketing department. I used to be in charge of campaigns, print campaigns, digital campaigns. Was working very closely with the, marketing head, and they used to they because travel was a very large part of
Yeah.
Thomas Cook
Yeah.
business. They used
Yeah.
to have something called a group tour, and then they used to something called a FIT, which is free individual travel. Yeah? So these are two segments.
FIT, free individual travel.
Free individual, and the group tour is called Group Inclusive Travel. It's called GIT. So these are two acronyms which are used in travel industry: GIT and FIT. And and both needed its own marketing. There used to be
different.
print, there used to be print campaigns. There used to be digital campaigns. There used to be, of course, digital was not that big at that time, but there used to be print campaigns. There used to be events. There used to be trade engagements with embassy bodies. So very exciting period for me. Yeah, I got to travel a little bit as well, and and post which I moved into foreign exchange, where this inflection point that I mentioned of a parent sitting in the counter and going through this anxious time, right? And that's the time I got the understanding of payments and remittance, right? And just got super interested and decided to build my career around digital payments.
Tell me more about digital payments now, because it's been 10 years now, right? And I know 15, 16 was an inflection point, with Aadhaar been building it up, UPI been building it up, then demonetization happened. What is used to be then and what it is now, and also, you're with Flywire now. So would love to know exactly what Flywire does.
Yep.
So first, let's talk about digital marketing, digital payments.
Sure. So I think the world started moving towards digital and alternate payment methods over the last 7 to 10 years. Yeah, and UPI is a prime example of the kind of adoption digital payments have had. Yeah, I think it all probably stems from the fact that a payer wants an ease. Yeah? Whether he is making a payment for tuition fee, whether he is making a hospital payment, the ease is the primary driver of the
convenience,
customer experience.
Yeah.
The core is the ease. Yeah, and that's why we have seen adoption of alternate payment methods, digital payment methods across the globe. Yeah, whether it's Pix in Brazil, whether it's PayNow in Singapore, whether it's UPI in India. Yeah.
Which one is Brazil?
Pix.
Pix. How do we spell?
PIX.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like a UPI only.
It's like UPI.
It's like your WeChat of China.
Similar. Yeah. So it's it's a payment form in Brazil. We are closer to UPI, so maybe I'll talk more about UPI. There were times when carrying cash and making a payment was a cumbersome experience, right? UPI came at a point where that was the problem which was getting solved. Yeah. Today you just fetch your phone, use the QR code.
So just interrupting you, I went to a bank in the morning. You won't believe, after 4 years, I have that like 500 not bundle. I'm like, and it took me 1 hour. I mean, you've been waiting, right? I'm like, I wasted 1 hour just to go to bank, just to deposit. I mean, it already I feel like alien and Asian that. Acha ye karte the hum. We used to count the notes and what wastage,
Correct.
But back to your story.
Yeah. So end of the day, now people only use a phone pay or a Google Pay in India, right? And imagine the fact that how, if a domestic payment is getting, there is so much of ease in happening in domestic payments. I think there is a larger movement within the globe where everybody is trying to solve for, cross-border payments, right? And I'll probably briefly talk about Flywire. So Flywire essentially believes the fact that software drives value in payments. Yeah? We have 4 major verticals: education, B2B, travel, and healthcare. education is our largest business, where we have tied up with more than 3,000 odd colleges.
How much? How many?
3,000 plus colleges. Yeah, the number keeps growing, of course. We are essentially solving a challenge for the university, where for them reconciling payments coming from China, India, Vietnam is a major task. Yeah, and we essentially provide a dashboard to the university, solve the reconciliation challenge for them, and streamline payments in the send market. As simple as that. And our growth story has been predominantly focused on ensuring that ease to the payer. While we have, our clients are the university entities and whom we onboard and, we set them up with us. Our focus has predominantly been ensuring that ease for the payer. Yeah. How do you provide ease? If you are not using Flywire, you will probably walk into a bank, fill, multiple forms, and then, there will be an outward remittance which will happen and the receiving entity will get the funds. With Flywire, what you have to do is just, you get an invoice from this, university. You have Flywire as a payment option. All you have to do is go into the Flywire website. You have multiple payment options. Complete that option. Choose the option that you are most comfortable with, and everything is seamless and digital. We have always believed in is the fact that in each of the markets that we want to tackle, India is one of the largest markets for us.
Which are largest?
India and China are two of the largest markets for us. These are high ticket transactions.
Yeah.
We want to ensure that the proper customer support, which is built in case the customer wants to reach out to us. The third part is that we at all times want to adhere to the regulations and the law of the land. So these are the three important aspects. And I'm very happy that the sort of effort that we've put in India in terms of creating that payer ease is delivering results for us.
When did Flywire started?
We've been around for more than 10 years now.
Yeah. To 2015, right?
More than 10 years per se.
Same time when we started, right? Yeah. And your journey is amazing, right? It's inspiring. So what were the alternative options or a traditional option before Flywire?
The options were a little scattered. Yeah, I would say that
bank
an Indian
transfer.
payer would typically end up going to a bank or a forex. Yeah.
NBFCs.
NBFCs are not in this space typically.
Okay.
So
foreign entity means your Thomas Cook.
The Thomas Cooks of the world, and
Ebix.
It could be Ebix. It could be any entity which has a license in India. And the fact is
that A2 license.
The AD2 license. Yeah, an AD2 license. So they would.
What do we call it? AD2.
Yeah, authorized dealer 2 category license. Yeah. So they could either go to an AD2 or they could go to an AD1, which is a bank. Sort of everybody has a role to play. Everybody is innovating as well, right? Everybody's also sort of started building digital channels around, cross-border payments. And everybody's also thinking about ease for the payer. Yeah. I wouldn't, while...
So Flywire is AD2?
Flywire is not an AD2. Flywire is only, Flywire is as an entity, of course, has an RBI permission as well. Yeah. Under a Paraton guideline that we have. But more importantly, we have partnered with 3 of the largest banks in India, which is State Bank of India, HDFC Bank, and ICICI. Yeah. Apart from that, we have, a couple of AD2 partnerships as well. But more importantly, we believe that the ecosystem itself is wanting to innovate. And I'm happy that Flywire is at the forefront of it. Yeah. When I'm talking about ease, the kind of things that, I spoke about, customer support. So, we have a dedicated team in Bangalore which speaks more than 9 languages, right? 9 Indian languages. It's a fantastic platform for us.
And how big is that team?
Right now, I think it's about 13 plus, I would say. Yeah, we have about 65 plus people in India, and we call them Flymates because everybody is an equal stakeholder in the company.
Very good name. We call ULites.
Sorry?
ULites.
ULites. Nice.
Flymates is amazing.
Yeah.
Good name.
Yeah.
It's very Australian, yeah? Yeah.
When I'm talking about these 3 banking partnerships, the seamless experience for the payer is, if I'm an ICICI, if I'm an HDFC bank customer, I can just log in with my net banking credentials, and complete the transaction online.
So they don't need to create new credentials.
You don't need to create. You can just go into Flywire. You will see an option called HDFC Bank Net Banking. You put your credentials and your transaction is done.
Can we go behind this? How it is happening? Because generally, if someone want to log in at University Living, either they will create their own, they sign up, or they will give authority of their through, they will sign up through Facebook or in one of the app. What were the challenges did you face? Because it's innovative. At least I'm feeling that I didn't know that. That I have my ICICI credentials, I put it that and I have logged in Flywire, but इसमें data theft भी तो हो सकता है.
So we put all the necessary checks and balances around security. It took us almost 2.5 years to build that solution. Yeah. What happens is that even before we do a UAT on the product, there is a proper checks and balances which is put in place for all.
UAT for everyone.
UAT is it's the initial testing plan. Yeah. So typically what happens is that even before you start putting the bricks together, or you're doing a testing for the product, there are proper checks and balances and protocols which are followed. Yeah. More importantly, the security teams from both organizations get together to ensure all protocols are in place. Yeah. And at the core, what happens is that there is an outward remittance which comes under Liberalized Remittance Scheme of RBI, and those checks and balances are followed by our.
Go deeper in this, because again, I have a student who is 17 years. They might have not known about this LRS. So we'll decipher that, but then continue your thought. Okay, then.
Yeah. So you had a question around Liberalized Remittance Scheme.
No. But before that, let's complete your thought. That okay, UAT hota hai. You have check balances.
By the way,
you have securities.
User acceptance testing.
Of course, there's nothing in this ecosystem which you are not.
Suddenly, you asked this question. I was wondering. Oh, UAT. Okay.
So it's user
acceptance testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's the phase when all things are sort of checked.
It's like defining a scope of work. With protocols and security, क्या हो सकता है, क्या नहीं हो सकता.
And it's the testing phase where the entire transaction is simulated and you check everything is all right or not. You spoke to me about liberalized remittance.
Yeah. So even you are saying any feature which seems so trivial, no. See why I'm asking this. When you are building a startup or when you are building a company together, it's so trivial, na, that just by changing behavior of, you don't need to remember any other password. It seems, especially when you are building it up and probably don't have that much of scale or resource, you're like, कितना ही change होएगा इससे यार, कितने ही लोग 2 password बना के नहीं रख सकते. But when you are at scale, these small things, wherein there is a very smooth transition, can make it or break it. And it took you 2.5 years and so much of UAT and checks and balancing protocols.
Yeah. So because that also what happens is that there is a proper methodology between both the organizations. First, you essentially want to define the flow of how the transaction will start and end. Yeah. What are the regulatory guidelines which will come into picture? Yeah. How does reporting work for that transaction? All of that, and then of course the entire security protocol part. So, all of those things are sort of taken together, tested well in advance before we sort of go live with the product.
So this piece is so important for anyone who want to become a product manager or a product designer, or even just be part of the security and or partnerships. Because at time, I had a partnership team and I'm a business development guy by heart. You feel like, ho to gaya, sign ho to gaya, but inquiries क्यों नहीं आ रही है, but business क्यों नहीं आ रहा? Because signing, getting on board is one thing, but before that, you need to ensure that there are protocols. If you're reaching out to, let's say, SBI, for you feel that, okay, getting on SBI is so easy, I mean, it's tough, but then once it's done, why are they delaying it to send inquiries or student, requirements? Because it's so easy, but for them, they're putting their name on the line. They need to be ensured that there's no data breach. You need to ensure that all the flow. I mean, their flows are not changing. So got your point. I mean, very very important for me and my team. You talk about outward
And it has
remittance.
taken a lot of effort and time. If we are tying up with organization like SBI and ICICI and HDFC, it's a long conversation. It's a lot of investment of time and thought and creativity. So there is, even before you start building the product or setting that up, there's a lot of conversation which happens.
What are the 3-5 things once, let's say for tomorrow I need to go to SBI and need to start working with them, right? What are the 3-5 things one should put in their mind to approach them?
Maybe not SBI. I can
Any,
I can put a name like X, for example, which is a large organization in India.
Fair bit.
I think that I will probably mention 2 or 3 things.
इस जनरेशन को 3 things समझ आता है. 1, 2, 3. 3
element that anybody would want to answer is, why are we doing it? Yeah, I think that is a very important element that you need to focus on. And I'm talking about any large organization that you want to go and set up a platform with, or you are opening a conversation, you want to get your product integrated, any such thing. The first point you need to clear, the element that you need to focus on, is why are we doing it? Yeah. Element that you want to focus on, or one would want to focus on, is what's the value which is getting created.
And also for both sides. Generally,
when we are saying value,
people feel that I'll get this, but I have a very strong belief, before asking, give. If you give, you will get.
Yes.
But people forget that what's there for you, people remember, but what's there for them, people forget.
Yeah.
Okay. Value creation.
Yeah. So you have answered the question why you are doing it.
What value is getting created.
What value is getting created. And the third point is, and which I believe, and this is a personal belief, is this creating a great experience for the end user? Yeah. If you've answered all these questions, you have a clear path for each of them, I think the conversation will flow there.
But value creation mein aa gaya na great experience.
Now, I'm talking about value creation for both the organizations, number one.
Okay, you're talking about user.
Yeah. So I'm predominantly talking about user experience.
Right.
Got
your point.
And all of these should be very...
And that coming back to the ease.
Is part of it.
Whether it's making ease, convenience, or cheaper for that matter.
Yeah. Is it creating a great product? Or, great user experience for that matter.
Got your point. Fair bit. You talk about, LRS, Liberalized Remittance Scheme.
Yeah.
Outward remittance. Yeah. Let's go deep there.
So, Liberalized Remittance Scheme is, essentially a guideline by the Reserve Bank of India, where an individual entity can send up to $250,000 per annum against his or her PAN.
कितना Indian rupee में कितना हो गया?
$250,000 is 1.2
crore.
Yeah, more than 2.5 crores.
10.
More than 2.5 crores.
नहीं, 80-85 लाख,
1.6, more than 2 crores, no?
More than 2 crores. Yeah.
2 crores.
2.15, 220 to 2 to 2.2 crores as of now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is against his or her PAN number, right?
Okay.
And any outward remittance you do needs to come under LRS. As an individual, you need to, that reporting needs to go to Reserve Bank of India.
And as a corporate?
The corporate, the systems and, it comes under a different category called LERMs, which I'll not talk more about.
Because, LERM.
LERMs. Yeah. LERMS.
LER.
That has also gone through a lot of changes, so I'll probably not touch that subject.
Yeah.
But corporate transactions are very different. There is a per diem concept for the corporates. And, there is forex card usage. There's corporate card usage. So I'll probably not touch that subject. But individual payments, you are sending funds to your relative, or you are sending a cross-border education payment. All of that comes under LRS.
And when you say $250,000, it's per person.
Per person.
In a family, one can, if they have a family of 4 and they have a PAN card, that means they are above 18. पैन कार्ड तो 18 से नीचे भी बन जाता है ना?
बन जाता है एंड दैट इज
बनता है पैन कार्ड
18 के एज उसके पहले भी बन सकता है.
अच्छा.
बन सकता है, बट एंड ऑफ द डे इन अ फैमिली ऑफ 4 एवरीथिंग इज मैप्ड अगेंस्ट द पैन नंबर. So
Got it. Individual. Right. And if you have a PAN card, that means you have a bank account.
You have a bank account, and then against that PAN number you can avail 250,000. So if it's a husband and wife, each of them has $250,000.
Right. Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and all of this is important. Everybody should be aware of
absolutely.
this. And a parent,
I mean, in fact, students going abroad first time, they are going. These are things which people learn, by probably in a hard way. Once they realize, we have paid 3 rupees, 4 rupees extra.
Correct.
And that 3 rupees or 4 rupees extra can be 2, 3, 5, 10 lakhs extra.
Yeah. No, okay. I wouldn't, it's not, I wouldn't even talk about, elements like those. I think what is important is that the security around the funds reaching the end beneficiary.
Absolutely.
I think, I would,
savings a second, but it's about safety first.
Yeah, I strongly recommend, because recently we went live with our relationship with State Bank of India on the education loan side, but where we are giving ease to the payer. Let's come to the ease, and we're giving ease to the payer, the trackability of part of it, but more importantly, whether it's any experience that we have built, we ensure that the payer gets the information that the funds have been credited to the university. And that's the paradigm that we have been able to change in India, where typically there would be a debit advice that would be issued by an entity in India, which would be the proof of funds being sent out of India. But Flywire is one of the very few organizations which gives a very clear notification to the sender that the funds have reached to the end beneficiary.
But ऐसा होता है क्या फंड नहीं पहुंचते?
Hardly. हमारे सिस्टम में तो नहीं.
आप Flywire नहीं. See again, I'm not holding you again only Flywire. I'm saying you are part of the ecosystem, right? Not companies you have worked with. Also, So ऐसा होता है क्या कि फंड नहीं पहुंचते या नोटिफाई नहीं होता या I mean like.
Yeah, it can happen, Saurabh. When because of lack of information flowing to the system, and there are checks and balances within the systems as well, the banking system as well, where the funds can get stuck, but happens very rarely because systems have also developed and changed in a lot of ways.
Okay, let keep it more simple. I'm a student. I have applied to go to Australia. I've got my offer letter. I want to now pay student deposit. So this is where we will come into picture. When student approach you.
The moment of truth is essentially around the student getting an invoice from the university which has a Flywire as an option. Right? That's when the student receives an invoice which has payment options, where Flywire is one of the options. And typically sometimes Flywire is the only option.
Tell me more about only option and one of the option. I mean,
because we are essentially bringing the universities on board. The payment option by default typically ends up being Flywire.
Okay, so those 3,000 plus institutes and colleges where you are easing their reconciliation program.
That's correct.
Program, they send an invoice to make the payment through Flywire or one of your peer group, but mostly, let's say, or at least in 3,000, they get the invoice, then they go to a bank or they go to
because
a
the
AD2.
payment option is Flywire. They go to the Flywire website and select the university.
You have an app?
We have an app also.
But mainly
because
it's like a bank account.
Because it's a high value transaction, people typically,
But the bank, आज के टाइम में बैंक्स में जब ऐप अच्छे से अडॉप्ट हो गए, any particular reason that Flywire is still web first, if I can imagine?
We have whatever feedback that we've got from peers, because it's a high value transaction, $12,000-$13,000 is the tuition fee. People have preferred the web journey, and then there are basic details which needs to be entered as well. So the feedback and
I tell you why I'm asking this. So for the longest time, we were questioning each other, all the management and founders, that why you need an app. Someone who is booking through accommodation, they are booking for one full year, mostly one time, mostly. Now, of course, there are different ways because of which students come back and we have value-added service and all. For the first 5 years, 6 years, we were questioning that why you need an app, because everyone launching an app. It's cool. Should we launch an app? And if we launch an app, why people will utilize again? Because we were into up to we have into flexible contracts and short-term flexible, but that time we were long-term contracts.
Right.
And we like the student is going for 1 year and they're booking 40 weeks on a average on our through our website. Why they need an app? But then very interesting thing happened when we realized that students are searching University Living on app store.
Is it? Okay.
And then like, wow.
Right.
Then we build an app. But then we also were questioning that, okay, students are, Gen Z are looking or students are looking on app, they are searching. But मैंने app बना भी लिया, तो repeat business कैसे आएगा? You know, अगर मैं option नहीं दूंगा तो payment वो website में आएगा, जैसे आपकी बात है.
Correct.
Right? So then that's why we added value-added services.
Got it.
That's why we added different contracts and whatever. But coming back to you, because आप app है, but आप web first हो, so is it because you're not giving or promoting app as an option, people are not paying? Because accommodation is also $10,000, $15,000, $20,000.
Yeah. So, the feedback that we have got is that, people in India at least, for example, India.
Is it because you're B2B first? That's why?
Not really. I think the kind of, the fact that, these are, the transactions can go up to $20,000,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there is always, imagine even if Indian payer not related to cross-border payments, yeah. If I were to do a $15,000 payment for anything, I would prefer probably a web journey, even today. Yeah, I might not be comfortable doing it on the.
Did you check with Gen Z and new parents?
I think we do take feedback. Multiple feedbacks have pointed to the fact that people in India, at least, for example, specific to India, prefer the web journey. Yeah, and because there's also the part where you have to upload documents as well. Yeah,
but app में हो जाता है.
हो सकता है. Then there is elements. The passport.
I tell you where I'm coming from. Someone who worked with students and agents and university very closely. So there are times when people want to book their accommodation and then they wait for parents to come in the evening and pay through a web versus, and that's why we like, let's make student discovery app first, but make student pay through a web or an app, But I understand because mostly they're paying deposits, which is $250, $500. So then they pay on the go. But when it's $10,000, $15,000,
yeah,
makes sense.
And there are other nuances also where you have to upload the documents. You have to probably upload your university admission letter as well. And because we look at this closely, we personally felt and the key feedback that's been consistent is that it's a web journey that.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And that's why I love fintech. Because fintech operates in both ends.
Yep.
There are fintech who are like always app first, new feature, this and that, and then there are fintech which are very traditionally go play by the rules, play by the books. They are conservative.
Yep.
And then it works for them.
Yep.
Very interesting.
And other thing is that some going in a slight tangent.
Yeah.
So there is this students who are going abroad, right? And then typically they become part of Indian diaspora abroad. Yeah. They start earning. And then they start sending money back. Yeah, India receives close to about $100 billion inward. Yeah, and India sends roughly about $20-25 billion. Yeah? Upwards of $20-25 billion, or upwards of $20 billion for sure.
तो भेज देंगे $250,000. आने का भी कोई limit है?
आने का limit ऐसा है नहीं. Inward into India is per se,
You understand why I'm asking this?
Yeah. And
nice.
And India wants to earn foreign exchange, right? So they would keep that process a little smooth.
Yeah.
But when you have, if this is the large number that we're talking about,
India का outward remittance ज़्यादा होगा ना 20-25 billion से?
It was 30. So on a calendar level in 2023, it was upwards of 30 billion.
मैं इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ because, and I might be like, I'm not trying to test your numbers, but I'm asking because when Indian students spending 42 billion when they are going to UK, those 100,000 students, is spending $40,000, is around 40 billion they are spending when they are going to UK only, not US and all. Then outward remittance ज़्यादा नहीं होगा.
No, so outward remittance, India mein na, so in a lot of ways, this is numbers which are published by RBI.
And they don't match.
They don't match. And sometimes, what happens is that, you have the open doors report, which is spending in US, for example, right? You will probably never be able to match those numbers properly. But, because of ease, you just need to get to a proper number. RBI publishes almost on a monthly basis, the outward remittance numbers under various heads. Whether it's study abroad, whether it's
right.
travel.
At time people send through different heads.
It can change, and those numbers are also not 100% perfect. But for us as an industry, we should always probably look at these LRS numbers, because these are LRS numbers published by Reserve Bank of India. The spending has a different pattern. There are sometimes funding which is coming in country as well, right? So it probably will never match, but one of the best data to look at would be the LRS numbers of RBI. When I was pointing out that 100 billion, 30 billion, I was pointing predominantly to point out to the fact that India is a very active remittance market. The 100 billion that I mentioned probably puts it in the top 2 or 3 receiving countries.
So mainly India, China.
India would be receiving, China would be receiving, Philippines would be receiving a lot of funds, right? Essentially, diaspora population, which is
NRI or
diaspora population going abroad and sending the funds back into India, contributing a lot to the economy as well.
And hence, these are the 3 markets which must be the strongest for you also. For this region.
For us, of course, there are because we are focused on education. India, China are the more noteworthy names. But when I was pointing you about those numbers, everybody's sort of wanting to do more in that ecosystem, and we track the LRS numbers pretty closely. And so idea is to keep innovating and creating that pay ease, as I mentioned.
Amazing. So how big is remittance market globally? If one of the investors watching, as I mentioned, there are audience which I was tracking is probably investors in education, investing into travel tech and prop tech, because that is probably what university have been doing. We are amalgamation of prop tech, travel tech, and ed tech. So my audience is also there is a segment which we track, which we know there are certain kind of investors who are keeping a track, or they are invested, or they want to invest in this ecosystem. So how big is remittance market?
So I'll probably not be able to give you the exact number, because
but ballpark,
I would say upwards of 500 billion. Because see, I'll tell you what, 500 billion is the number that I'm putting right now. This is predominantly the P2P number that there's a lot of IMF data also available. But it might not be. It might need segment analysis.
I got your point.
Yeah, and I'm purely talking about P2P, where a person is sort of sending the funds back.
Why I'm asking this, and I put some number which people say crazy. As per me, right? There's no validation to it. Accommodation market is a $800 billion market.
Okay.
And my maths is very simple. There are 80 million students who are enrolling every year, out of which 35-40 million is the students which are mobile students. And whoever the mobile students, even domestic students, they need housing.
Right.
Every student end up paying $10,000.
Right.
So 80 billion into $10,000 is 800 billion.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that's my TAM. My TAM is whatever percentage, and then there's a what shape and size you are going after this market.
Yeah.
Are you a developer?
Yeah.
Are you a facility manager? Are you a marketplace? Are you a managed marketplace like us? Right? Basis that 4%, 8%, 12%, 20% on that.
Yeah. I generally don't like to put blanket numbers. The 2 numbers that I have put on the table is that 30 billion India number and 100 billion coming into India. The reason I don't do that is if you try and break that up, some of those numbers will probably not add. Yeah. So I'll probably reserve my comment on the TAM part of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about payments per se. So what are some of the biggest challenges today in managing payments for education, and how is Flywire addressing these challenges? You can talk in general, or you can talk about Flywire.
Sure. No, I'm generally Flywire has put a lot of investments towards ensuring that there are the challenges get mitigated in a big way. Yeah. Uh, Typically, there is no clear trackability of the payment. You might have made the payment, money has moved out of your account. Has the money got delivered to the university? And what stage is it in? I think that trackability is something that everybody wants. If you ordering stuff on Zomato or Swiggy,
you track.
you know
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what's happening, what's the trackability, payment gets done when the food is getting delivered, right? Of course, cross-border payments are different segment altogether, but trackability is super important. Yeah?
Right.
Third is that because it's large value payment,
The economics.
not the economics part of it, since it's large value payments, there might, even if everything is in order, yeah, you might still want to reach out to somebody,
The support.
right? $25,000, $30,000 in India, people might want. They might,
Anywhere.
yeah,
Not in
they
India,
might,
anywhere.
They might just be okay completing the payment and then assuming that the payment is going to.
But they need their peace of mind.
They need the peace of mind.
They
so
know
that-
if anything go haywire, this is the person I need to call.
Yeah. And even in wanting to reach out to somebody, so there should be a proper mechanism to
Got it.
support.
Yeah, trackability, support.
And it should not, when I'm saying support, it should not be generic support where, the person has reached out, he's asking.
It's not chatbot. It should
It's
be
not chatbot, number one, and he's asking some specific.
personalized and
No,
customized
he's
support.
asking specific details around tax collected at source for that matter. He has a genuine, or rather, query which is related to his payment. There's a financial year change which is happening right now in the next 3 days, right? So, TCS itself will change from that matter. When we are talking about customer support, that customer supports need to be ready,
Customized and they are well trained.
well trained.
Got
They
it.
should know what to say, when, and they should be almost operating as a payment expert. for
Got
that
your
matter,
point.
Yeah.
Got your point.
So trackability, payment support. Last is ensuring that the funds get delivered in the expected time.
What about economics? You have not touched about. Is it cheaper to pay through Flywire or your peer group versus AD1 or AD2?
Yeah. So it's end of the day, there is always an FX element, right? We have done, and for us, everything that we do, we put the student and the parent the heart of
Yeah.
the payment experience. Yeah. We I will not dwell again into the details of it. We are extremely competitive in the market. We have a dedicated pricing team which monitors various elements of the market, including rates that are existing in the bank, for example. Yeah, we take into many such elements, including payment sizes, before we put the price on the payment. And I can vouch for the fact that we're extremely competitive in the market.
There's always an ambiguity around FX. Let me now put you on a spot, and then I'll put, as a leader, I'll put how you navigate now.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
When people say we are getting the best forex payments, and everyone check Google, but Google is again also not updated, right? There are times, and you want to go about the nuances about as a student or as a end user, what are those things as a genuine user to watch out for to get the best price, to get the most safest route. What are those 2, 3, 5 things, and then we wrap it up.
Sure.
What as a user need to watch out for.
I'm going to answer it in a very general way, and speaking on behalf of the ecosystem more than anything else. So there are banks, then there are other authorized
AD1,
entities,
AD2,
there are other authorized,
Western Union, EbixCash. These will be AD2, right?
yeah. So,
Banks, you are saying SBI and all these will be
SBI,
banks, right?
HDFC, ICICI.
Right. Okay.
I will probably.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
end of the day, yeah, and I have a very different take to this entire concept. Yeah, what you see in Google is just an interbank rate and a yardstick rate. Yeah, one should not really put too much of importance to that rate. Yeah, and I would again talk about this part of it. Every bank decides to have their own rates, markups. Same with the authorized dealers, all of that. And similarly, companies like Flywire or any other company operating in that space has their own methodology around pricing. Yeah, the individual, which is the student and parent, who has to complete the payment, ensure that the payment is in line with regulatory adherence and tax adherence. There are elements to it, right? Because there is a tax collected source element also attached in the pricing. Yeah. The student and parent has to decide whether this provider is just giving me some rate, which is probably the lowest in the market or anything else, and completing the payment. Yeah. Or the provider is ensuring that each and every line item which needs to be ticked, which is reporting of LRS, tax collected at source, GST, everything is properly taken care of before that $10,000 or $15,000 payment is going out of India. Yeah. Now, the student and the parent has to think what works for them best, whether they should choose a provider which is ensuring that everything is in order with the payment and he or she will not have a problem later, or just go with the price.
I will not get trade secrets from him. And also, I mean, I understand he's working at a very senior level and also with a company which is IPO. So he need to be very compliant. So I leave that part there.
We are Nasdaq listed, but not importantly, I genuinely feel that the student and
It's about service and price. If you're looking at prices, there can be different options.
About $20,000, $25,000 of your hard-earned money,
Yeah.
or you would have taken education loan. Yeah,
See, I have a point to make here, but I'll stop here because, I mean, even if it, let's say, 81 or 82, or even a company like Flywire, which might not be, well known like Flywire, but उनको भी तो बैंक के थ्रू और RBI के थ्रू regulated है ना वो. वो regulated है, and they're also, let's say, Southeast Asia, Southwest. Rules सबके लिए same है.
Rules is same.
है ना? तो they will play by the rules ना. Experience खरा ऊपर नीचे हो सकता है.
Yeah.
And अगर किसी को price point से जाना है.
नहीं, and you're right, absolutely right. See, every entity in the ecosystem is whoever is providing the service is a regulated entity, right? Now, whether they are following rules, as a regulated entity, they are anyway supposed to follow the rules, right?
Yeah.
And we also say this: it's always up to the student and the parent to use their discretion.
No, I got your point. I'll help you with this. Like you can go to US directly with airlines, Air India or British Airways, or let's say for that matter Delta Airlines, and you can also go to US through 2 layover.
Yeah.
You might get a better price, but then that convenience, that at time you become what we call it, penny wise found foolish. You try to save dimes and then you end up paying more, and then you are losing peace of mind. There are cases I have known people, students' fees have not reached on time, due to which the admission got deferred or cancelled. Yeah.
All these are very important elements, but I would always say, I'm not saying I'm not speaking of the ecosystem.
Got it.
I personally feel it's completely discretionary in terms of the student and parent to choose their provider. My only recommendation is just don't look at
Only for price point.
ensure that all your other elements around the payments are taken care of, and there is a proper support mechanism available in case you want to reach out.
Got your point. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm very about your flight. I can sit. I can sit. But thank you.
It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed. I think, one of the I enjoyed the leadership part of the conversation. I know we didn't go deep into digital payments or Flywire, but
we'll go offline.
Yeah, but we'll do that. But the fact that we were able to touch so many subjects.
Yeah. And for a layman, for someone who's going abroad first time, or they are thinking, at least whatever you have, because for us we feel that it can go deeper, but then for them it's already a very deep conversation.
Yeah.
So thank you for being so candid. Thank you for being so patient.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Opening up.
Yeah. No. All good. I'm happy that we had this conversation. I was also able to learn a lot, to be honest, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Prakash, and thank you the team who are looking to go abroad, who are looking to learn more about payments, who are looking to learn more about accommodation or anything, because, and even leadership, that's the best part. I didn't think that we'll be touching leadership so deep. I didn't think that probably we talk about, probably digital payments so deep, but still more can be talked about digital payments, which we'll do it. We will always be true to the reason we will be starting it, wherein unscripted, candid discussion to learn and decipher anything, everything about entrepreneurship, study abroad, and just the journey called life.